In May 1994, two 17-year-old close friends from Stonebrook, Oklahoma, Jacob Rivera and Nolan Bennett, asked Jacob's mother to give them a ride to the lake so they could go fishing. But the boys were gone when Jacob's mother came back to get them later that day. One of them was found walking along Highway 3 the day after, about 50 miles from their fishing location. It was quite strange and hard to believe what he told the authorities. This is his story. I still can't believe where I am right now. What happened to me and Jacob is hard to accept, he recounted. Jacob's mom dropped us at the lake around 7 a.m. We usually aimed to arrive earlier, but I had trouble waking up. As we arrived and saw the serene lake, I commented on what a great day it would be for fishing. Jacob agreed, familiar with our preferred fishing spots where we usually had good luck catching crappie. After starting to fish, with minimal success, Jacob suggested exploring different spots around the lake. We moved along the bank, casting our lines at intervals, hoping for better luck. As we approached a wooded area, we stumbled upon an old, run-down camping trailer, oddly parked there without any tire tracks leading to it. Jacob found it strange, and I noticed the trees obstructing its access. Surprisingly, Jacob wanted to investigate further, urging a quick look before returning to fishing. Reluctantly, we approached the trailer. About 20 yards away. The closer we got, the stronger my urge to turn back became. The dense foliage was a challenge, with mosquitoes buzzing around us. As Jacob attempted to check the door, there was sudden commotion from inside, like something rushing toward us. Startled, we sprinted away, hearing the door open and swift movement behind us. Jacob went one way, yelling something I couldn't quite hear, as I ran, struggling against branches hitting my face and blocking my sight. My eyes were watering badly, making it hard to see, but I kept running. It seemed like there was no end to the bushes and trees, which meant I was heading away from the lake, deeper into the forest. After running for some time, I stopped behind a large tree to catch my breath. The second I stopped, something hit me hard in the back of the head. I hit the ground, and then darkness enveloped me. The next thing I remember was waking up in a dark place, the smell of dust assaulting my nose. I tried to move my hands and feet, but they were restrained, and there wasn't much room for maneuvering. I was drenched in sweat from the intense heat. I cried out, but it was obvious that the darkness would not allow my voice to travel very far. I had a lot of macabre ideas while I lay there in the dark. My mind began to worry about Jacob and where he might be, and I couldn't stop wondering why I was there and who or what had struck me in the head. Trying not to cry, I hoped he was alright because he had been my best friend for the longest time. Suddenly, and without warning, it felt as if whatever I was in started moving, which I guessed was a trailer by the lake. There was a low humming noise that got louder and louder. I thought, how could we be moving? I remembered where the trailer was parked, and there were no visible vehicles around. The humming sound persisted for a long time, and then suddenly it stopped. It felt like we'd stopped moving too. I had almost drifted off to sleep when a jolt woke me up wide awake. Fear and panic surged through me. I had no idea what would happen next. Minutes of uneasy silence passed, then I heard what I thought was a sound of struggling, followed by something being slammed down on a hard surface, making a loud noise. Horrific thoughts raced through my mind as I started thinking about Jacob. Was he tied up in the dark like me? Or was that sound him? I continued struggling, attempting to move my hands and feet to break free. I felt like I was making a bit of progress, but it was hard to tell because of the small space and my mind going wild with panic. The next thing I remember was being grabbed by my hair, yanked out of the space I was in, and dragged along the floor. Then, whoever was dragging me abruptly stopped. I lay there on my stomach with my hands tied behind my back, too scared to move. It took some time for my eyes to adjust, but when I looked up, I let out a blood-curdling scream. I couldn't believe what was in front of me. On the wall of the trailer, there was an upside-down cross with Jacob's headless body hanging, his head just below his body. The expression on his face was unbearable. He looked like he'd gone through immense pain and suffering. I closed my eyes, hoping it was all just a dream. A few minutes later, I opened my eyes, expecting to see Jacob's head and body again, but instead, there stood a man glaring down at me with a stare I'll never forget. I vividly remember the whites of his eyes. He wore black pants, was barefoot, and the rest of his body was covered in black paint. He had drawn something in the paint on his chest that extended down to his stomach, an upside-down cross, and below it, the name Malthus written like he'd used his fingers. He didn't say anything as he effortlessly lifted me off the floor and then slammed me down on a table in front of Jacob's body. I fought the urge to scream as I was now just inches away from Jacob's decapitated head. The man then walked behind me, and I could hear him searching for something. After some commotion, he returned and stood over me, holding what I believe was called a sickle in one hand. He started saying something I couldn't understand as he raised both arms in the air. I remember thinking, this is how I'm going to die. I closed my eyes, preparing for what I feared would be a horrible fate as I lay there, waiting for death. I swear I heard something, someone or something speaking. The voice was deep, hoarse, in a language I couldn't grasp. I forced my eyes open to see what lurked. And there it was. The scariest thing my eyes ever beheld, behind the painted man. It resembled a half-man, half-beast, covered in a shroud of black hair, towering on two legs, staring with fiery red eyes. I can't put into words what its face looked like, perhaps I never will. I glanced up at the painted man, who nodded knowingly as the entity, without warning, morphed into a massive black bird and vanished. The man slowly lowered his arms, pivoted, and ambled back from whence he came. Just as he grabbed the sickle, I lay there, grappling with the shock. Out of the blue, the painted man returned, seizing me by the shoulder and yanking me off the table. I crashed onto the floor, pain coursing through me. I shut my eyes, bracing for the end. Instead of ending me, the man gripped my hands, slicing through my restraints. He freed my feet, leaving me sprawled out, contemplating my next move. Suddenly, he seized me by the hair, propelling me toward the door. With a swift motion, he flung it open, dragging me outside until I hit the ground. I swiftly turned to face him as he loomed over me, questioning my identity and purpose. Who are you? Why are you doing this? I yelled, desperation lacing my voice. His piercing gaze bore into me as he uttered, I am the hand of the dark god, the dark messiah, the vengeful one. He pivoted, vanishing into the trailer, leaving me dazed. I wasted no time, scrambling away from him, though my numb feet hindered my escape. As I stumbled, casting glances back, it astounded me, it had vanished entirely. Moreover, the landscape was unfamiliar. I found myself in a desert, a place I'd only ever seen in books and on TV. I wandered through the desolate expanse until I stumbled upon a highway, utterly drained. Collapsing in its midst, I awaited rescue by a passing car. I miss my friend, Chase Bennett, gone, unbelievably vanished. Chase was discovered over 1,000 miles from his previous location, picked up along Highway 95 in Bullhead City, Arizona. His story, incredulous as it was, found belief by virtue of absence of alternatives. Jacob, missing without a trace, prompted a search. Nolan's recounting led authorities to the spot where he claimed release from the enigmatic painted man. His footsteps imprinted the ground. Juxtaposed against what seemed to be 4 trailer tire marks, appearing as if conjured from thin air. Despite investigations, Jacob remained elusive, declared deceased eventually. Nolan withdrew, shunning interviews, consumed by the quest for the green and white camping trailer, a pursuit he continues to this day. You can subscribe for more stories.